Have you ever wondered, what happened to the names that once filled every British street? The names that echoed through cobbled alleys, stitched into shop signs and carved into church pews? Names that told stories, not just of families but of places, crafts and lives once lived with pride. But time has a way of sweeping those stories away. So tonight we're going to remember them, 30 forgotten British surnames you rarely, if ever, hear today. Each one carries a piece of our past, a whisper from the days when Britain was built by calloused hands and quiet hearts. Before we begin, tell me where you're watching from. Drop your city, your county, or your country in the comments. And tell me the time you're watching this, whether it's late night with a cup of tea, or early morning as the sun rises over your town. Because tonight we're traveling back together, to rediscover names that deserve to be spoken again. 1. Adcock. Our first name, Adcock, sounds simple, but it carries centuries of English history. It means son of Adam, once one of the most common surnames in the Midlands. Farmers, carpenters, and shopkeepers bore this name proudly. It was steady, humble, reliable. You'd find Thomas Adcock, blacksmith, painted on a wooden sign above a smoky forge in 17th century Warwickshire. Now, the name has almost vanished from modern Britain, like the old trade signs themselves. 2. Blakemore. Meaning dark moor. This name was born from the rugged, misty edges of Staffordshire and Worcestershire. Families of shepherds and millers once carried it. They lived by the black peat moors where fog clung to the ground like memory. Blakemore, a name that sounds like an echo from the land itself. But time took it, replaced by newer surnames, shorter names, and urban migrations that erased the roots of the moorland people. 3. Fenwick. In the north there was Fenwick, meaning farm by the marsh. Strong, grounded folk with mud on their boots and pride in their fields. The Fenwicks of Northumberland were known landowners and riders. Today you might still see the name on an old family crest or estate gate, but in the census rolls it's nearly gone. Their marshes turned to motorways and their name, to history. 4. Goodenough. Now here's one you might not believe, Goodenough. Yes, that was a real surname. In medieval England, it meant capable or fit for purpose. A compliment, not a jest. John Goodenough might have been the baker who never burnt a loaf, or the carpenter whose beams never bent. Once a mark of pride, now almost a curiosity on ancestry websites. Imagine how many quiet, dependable Goodenoughs built the towns we live in today. 5. Hollier. From the word holly. It meant one who lived by the holly grove. Families in Somerset and Warwickshire carried this name, often living near the churchyards where holly trees guarded the graves. A name of peace, of green and quiet strength. But in the last century, it nearly disappeared, the last Holliers fading from rural records in the 1950s. 6. Tolliday. From Devon comes a rare gem, Tolliday. It means tax collector's day. An old word tied to England's market towns, where toll collectors stood by wooden bridges collecting pennies for passage. Imagine that, men with ledgers and ink-stained fingers, marking down every wagon that crossed the bridge. Now the bridges are steel and the Tollidays are gone. 7. Solido. Once found in the mining towns of northern England. No one's quite sure what it means, perhaps from a lost farm or dialect word. But in the 1900s, one man carried it into history. Percy Solido, head of MI5. Even fame couldn't save the name from extinction. Today, Solido sits mostly on tombstones and dusty records. 8. Tibbets. From the Norman name Theobald. The Tibbets were merchants and tailors, hard-working, respected families in old market towns. But like many Norman names, it drifted into the shadows as centuries passed. Now, only a few scattered families remain, living reminders of a French root deep in English soil. 9. Wolnow. A Suffolk name meaning Wolf's Hill. There's something wild about it, ancient, untamed. It spoke of the old English countryside before the railways came. The Wolnows were farmers and herders. Today their name barely whispers across a handful of parish registries. 10. Nethercot. From Devonshire meaning the lower cottage. You can almost see it, a thatched roof, smoke curling up, sheep grazing nearby. In those valleys, every cottage had a name and every family a story. The Nethercots built, worked and lived quietly. Now their cottages stand empty, their name long forgotten by those who walk the same roads. 11. Drabble. Yorkshire's own. Derived from a word meaning, to move through mud. And fittingly so, the Drabbles were miners, field hands and laborers. They waded through life's struggles with grit and patience. But like the coal seams they worked, their name's been mined out of modern use. 12. Craddock. A Kentish name, once found near Craddock Farm. Records show it in the 1500s, then silence. Perhaps the land was sold, the family moved on, and the name fell like dust through history's fingers. 13. Shufflebotham. A Staffordshire original, meaning valley where cattle are driven. It's a name that tells you exactly where it came from. Strong local proud. Farmers, drovers, and butchers once called themselves Shufflebotham. But today bureaucracy and modern life prefer shorter names. What a shame, because in that long, peculiar name was the poetry of place. 14. Redaway. Devon again, meaning red path. Those paths still exist, glowing in the late sun, winding through the countryside. But the Redaway families who once walked them are mostly gone. Names fade. Paths remain. 15. Puddock. Old English for kite, the bird of prey. It was once a nickname for a clever or opportunistic person. A surname that carried cunning, survival instinct. Now it's all but extinct, an old joke turned into a ghost. 16. Snelling. A name for someone quick, sharp, or keen. The Snellings were often craftsmen, bowmen, or messengers. They were the clever ones, agile minds, fast hands. But even the quick can't outrun time. Few Snellings remain today. 17. Hewardyne. From Lincolnshire, farm on the ridge. It rolls off the tongue like an old folk song. It's the sound of rolling fields and red barns in the distance. Today Hewardyne is a rare find in British records, a ridge now long overgrown. 18. Bastable. From Gloucestershire, meaning vessel maker. Potters and tinsmiths once wore this name like a badge of honor. Craftsmen whose hands shaped the clay of daily life. But industrialization made their work, and their name, obsolete. 19. Cholmondeley. A grand, noble name, tied to old estates and titles. But even prestige fades. Outside a few aristocratic families, Cholmondeley is nearly gone. Proof that no name, however proud, escapes time's erosion. 20. Fines Clinton. Another double-barrel relic of nobility. Once printed on invitations and family crests, now mostly on faded paper in archives. Old bloodlines, old pride, old Britain. 21. Lovelock. Meaning, one with beautiful or curly hair. A name of warmth, romance, and charm. You can almost hear it spoken in candlelight. It was common in Oxfordshire centuries ago, but today, rare as poetry in a tax return. 22. Beauchamp. A Norman name meaning beautiful field. It came over after 1066 with knights and nobles. You can still find it carved above abbey doors. But outside the titled families, Beauchamp has nearly vanished, a relic of a French England that few remember. 23. Rag. A Yorkshire name likely meaning fiery or angry. The Rags were bold, outspoken folk, the kind who stood their ground in any debate. But their name, once common in factory towns, faded with industrial decline. 24. Merryweather. A cheerful name, literally pleasant weather. You'd find it in Sussex, Kent, and London's outskirts. Innkeepers, cobblers, cheerful souls who named their taverns after sunshine. Now, you'll find it mostly in storybooks. The Merryweathers, it seems, have gone with the fair weather. 25. Brabazon. A name from Norman French meaning brave or handsome. Once tied to noble families who crossed the Channel centuries ago. Today, only a trace remains in aristocratic circles. It's a reminder of Britain's long, tangled dance with the continent. 26. Digweed. Yes, a real surname. From Berkshire meaning one who digs in a weedy place. Farmers and gardeners bore it proudly. Their name was earthy, simple, and honest. But as generations moved to cities, the soil slipped through their fingers, and their names slipped from memory. 27. Swettenham. From a Cheshire village meaning sweet homestead. A name that sounds like comfort. The Swettenhams were landowners, families who built quiet legacies. Today the name lingers like a scent, faint but not forgotten. 28. Honeychurch. Surely one of the most beautiful of all. A Devon village name meaning the church by the meadow. You can imagine it. Bells ringing across a golden field, children laughing, a mother calling from the doorway. Honeychurch feels like a poem, a hymn of home. But it too has faded, kept alive mostly by literature and memory. 29. Cartledge. From the Midlands meaning dweller by the cart path. A working man's name. Cartledges kept Britain moving, hauling coal, goods and grain. Their legacy still rolls beneath our roads, though their name barely does. 30 Oldroyd. And finally, Oldroyd, a Yorkshire name meaning old clearing. It belonged to miners, farmers and builders. People who turned forests into farms, rock into shelter and labor into legacy. Oldroyd, the sound of history echoing through an empty field. Every name you've just heard once belonged to a family that worked, loved, and dreamed in the heart of Britain. Their names weren't just words, they were identities tied to land and labor, to hills and hearths. Now they're whispers. But by speaking them, we bring them back even for a moment. So once again, where are you watching from tonight? What town, what city, what country? And what time is it for you right now? Midnight? Morning? Afternoon, tea time? Tell me below, and if you've ever heard one of these surnames, share your story. Because every comment keeps these names alive. And every view helps preserve the memory of old Britain. Don't forget to subscribe, like, and share this video. Because somewhere out there, a forgotten name is waiting to be spoken again.